Okay, I've just finished laying out the armour guards for the wires and the hydraulic lines, and fairly straightforward. The important thing obviously is to make sure everything's neat, nothing's trapped, and everything lies flat. When I first built it up just to test, I did cable tie everything together for neatness, but this is not a good idea when all of these lines and cables need to be as flat as possible so they have a low level clearance. This is the tricky bit. There's a lot going on in this area, simply with the wires and all the junctions for your hydraulics. There is a 90-degree capping as well. We get some spare pieces or extra pieces depending on the length we're going to run. Everything checks out okay, and I'll give you an update once that's fitted and show you everything running. As far as commissioning is concerned, levelling is fairly straightforward. It's a case of on the side of the box there's a secret button for your levelling for your sensors, for the optical sensors on either side of the ramps. You might be able to see them actually on camera, because if they are infrared they should be lit. No, not at the moment, because obviously they're not functioning, so you have no light showing, but that's where they're positioned. That's just a matter of sending up the machine while holding. You have to hold the side button in and press the up function, and it will level. If you feather that on and off, it will actually equalize and balance the paddles in unison, and that's okay. But before you do that, obviously the most important thing is checking for leaks. I'm using some blue paper towel, which is probably the ideal thing as an indicator. I had a slight weep on one of these joints and one on the ramp, which I've now cured. So I'm just keeping an eye on monitoring on a daily basis, so I can have peace of mind when I do use it that everything's going to be okay. As far as bleeding the system, you'll see the two valve cocks either side. You've got the right hand and the left hand one. Those need to be open, so pointing straight outwards rather than at 90 degrees where they are now. And basically once they're open, with oil in your machine, press and hold up for 30 seconds. The ramp will deploy, it'll start to rise, and you'll see the lines hydraulic up. They'll stiffen up as the pressure builds. Once they've done that, you can then let the ramp down, and you'll actually hear it purge out the air. You'll hear bubbling and boiling in the base tank, which is perfectly normal. And so once the ramp's found its top position, to vent the air out, you can then press obviously the down button, and it will gradually sink to the floor and wait for it to reach the end stops and land flat on the base. You'll hear lots of noise, bubbling and air being purged out the system. This is completely normal, and it's necessary to get the air out of the hydraulics. You don't want any air trapped in there. Much like the brakes on your car, it will create a spongy lift and inaccurate lifting, and could damage either the pump or the rams when the air is passed through the valves or the motor itself. So once that's done and settled down, you can then close the valves back off, so at 90 degrees to their outlet. And then once that's done, if you need to recheck your level sensor, you can then raise the ramp and you will get an indication of a warning light on there. If that comes on and the ramp stops for no reason, then simply press the button on the side and feather the up button at the same time to resync your paddles. Once that's done, that's pretty much it. So hopefully we can move on and show you everything fitted, finished and functioning. Okay, thank you. Lights are now fitted and everything tucked in nicely. The only thing to be wary of is the mistake I made, and that's to be sure that this piece comes up flush to the edge of the ramp, of the blue ramp. Otherwise you will get them interfering on the plates, so I'll have to reposition those at a later date. The important thing is just check once your ramp's down and plates are on, all your cables are free to move, and nothing binds. The plates themselves, the paddles, will lock up, so if you lift, they'll go into a level position, so you can actually get a longer reach, and in that position this allows you to check the clearance of the cables underneath. Everything is nice and neat. Again, check everything moves freely and no cables are getting snagged or in the way. All common sense. And the release for that is the peg there, so it's a case of literally just flick it up and it allows the paddle to drop back to its normal position. The small blocks of wood just allow me to or allow the car to roll forward just enough to position it with the handbrake off, so I can get the chocks under and get an even lift. The rest of the plate work's done and in, nice and neat. As I say, the cabling is nice and slack, and all the hydraulic cables are slack, so there's no pressure and no tension and nothing to snag, wear or pinch. So once that's all checked, double check your oil level. The level is, there's a dipstick on there, you can check the level on your oil tank, and tie up all your loose cables out the way of any heat sources, so the motor obviously and any other valving. So I've tied up all the wiring out the way. So all we need to do now is press the go button. The limit switch is all set up now because we've done all the calibration, the level sensor, and also for the bleeding of the system. So it will come up to its maximum level, which is now limited by a switch. Without the switch in place, it will hydraulic the lines up and overpressure them, and could quite easily burst one of your lines. So just be aware that when you are doing your calibration that the relief valves are open. The limit switch for the top is there, and you can see there's a hole next to, just at the back. When it's in the transport position, that unit is mounted backwards out of the way, so when you calibrate it, you don't want that interfering with your settings. Once it's set and calibrated and bled on the hydraulics, you can then fit the levels, the top level sensor, which that is, to so it functions fully. The bottom level sensor is on the other side, is there, simple roller, and that sets the safety limit for when you do finally drop it. You'll get an audible beep, and to let you know that you're going down with the system. So double check all your cables, just make sure everything is nice and free, there's no snagging, everything's tied up. I've got one or two cable ties just for my personal preference, just to tie around some of the cables. You can see the underneath mechanism there of how it works, so you can manually fold out the paddles at any time and then release them back down, one-handed, so no issues at all. So say, all in all, very good. I'll drop it down now so you can see the drop, and then last but not least we'll pop a car on and just see how high we can get it and whether it's a useful working height. So hope you found this useful and you've enjoyed watching, and you'll have to let me know if you've got any feedback or any other questions, and I'll do my best to answer any other questions you have. So we're going to automatically drop onto the locks. You then have to do a second press on the down, and it will then give you an audible bleep, and everything locks down and it's finished. So all running, all safe to use. Right, car's lifted, not at full height. We've got to keep watching the roof, obviously. We're within a couple of inches of the roof, but we are exactly where we need to be, so we can work on rear or the front, no problem at all. Access to the suspension and other important bits, and obviously from a service point of view we can get under and we have a clear space to work and perform any servicing or repairs. So all in all good, works well. I'd say the only thing to watch is your top clearance. That's fairly simple, just keep an eye on where everything's going. So that's it, all in all good, thumbs up. And if you decide to buy one, then I can definitely recommend this unit, this system. It is an independent lift, obviously, which is what I went for, which is why you have the photocell in between. But it does allow you access through the centre of the ramp. Even though it's only a low lift, it does give you access if you're dropping gearboxes or doing any exhaust work. It's more than good enough to be able to do any routine maintenance or service work. So hopefully you found this informative, and carry on watching. Thank you.